I've never been a waiter, but I'm assuming like the daily thing a waiter would do is, take people's orders, their drinks, bring them the food, just serve the customer the best way they know how, be polite, be kind. And yeah, I'm sure there's other things they do, but I honestly don't know them.
Well, being a waitress here it's not that hard. When I get here, I just check in.
Setting up all lemons and limes, the beverage line behind the back, sweeping the whole section, the whole restaurant, rolling a bunch of silverware. There's like a lot of other stuff than just bringing out food to people. That's it.
And then you start up with your lineup, and everybody tells you what's important for the week and certain things, and then you just get started waiting. And it's a little bit weird because you're told to care for the restaurant and you want to take care of the restaurant, but really you don't want to. You just show up to make your money, so you do whatever you kind of have to take care of the restaurant so that you can get as good tips as you can. So it's a little bit of a weird dynamic there. While you're doing doing your job, taking care of the day, you kind of clean up, you kind of take care of things, but you try to ignore everybody's problems as much as possible so you can take as good care of your tables as possible. And then you get your closing duties, and the majority of closing duties is you're cleaning up, taking care of things, but the biggest thing is you got to roll silverware.
So probably something the worst experience I've ever been in at a restaurant is when the waiter just, isn't really doing their job right. Like when they don't bring the food, or not even bringing the food on time, but rather they don't even come and check on us or anything like that. And they're just slow, and they seem not to really care. Those are when I have bad restaurant experiences.
Okay, the worst situation I've ever gone through with my customers. This old man came with his friend, which was also old, but he was older. And they sat down, and I came to the table to ask them what they want to drink, and I was introducing myself, and he just cut me off, and he was like, "Water, I want water." And then I was like, "Oh, okay." I ignored him, and I just said, "Yeah, my name's Jessica," and I just kept asking him what he wanted to drink. He was like, "Water, water now." And then the other old man was just like, "Can we please have some water?" But he was really mean.
Worst situation with the customer, I was at Ninfa's whenever I first started. I'd been working there for about 2 months, waiting on this big top of drunk people. Just had these people yelling at me from across the table, just constantly yelling drinks at me. Finally made it all the way around. I was walking back and this guy snaps at me. He's just like, "Hey." I was pissed, just not happy at all, just not happy. So yeah, that was my worst experience. Really, really, it's terrible.
So you have a pet peeve, people just snapping at you?
Yeah, man, snapping, I just don't like it. Either that or people asking for straws before I put a drink down in front of them. Or whenever I put the first drink down in front of them and immediately asking me for a straw. That's my other pet peeve that I absolutely hate.
Well, I haven't been waiting for very long, but one of my worst situations with a customer actually wasn't technically when I was waiting. I was still a busboy, but I was filling up somebody's tea. I was refilling it in a tea pitcher, and as I started pouring it, the guy looked up and said, "Oh, no, that's not tea. I don't want any more tea." And instead of just taking it away, for some reason, I poured his entire glass back into the tea pitcher right in front of all of them. And they both gasped, and they left very quickly. But aside from that, everything was pretty cool. So yeah, that was definitely my worst situation.
The best situation with a customer has been, it was a table of 6 people, and the dad was real crazy. He was really funny. He had 7 beers, but he wasn't drunk or anything, but he was real funny. And they left me a $15 tip.
Best, had these 2 customers at Ninfa's. Their names were Mike and Missy. Just really awesome people. Took me 120 on $60. They always tip well, but yeah, they're just really nice people. And that's why I like serving. You deal with a bunch of people that are terrible, but then you also get the few people that are actually pretty cool and fun to wait on and actually interesting. But yeah,
go with the biggest tip. I mean, I got the biggest tip. It was really chill. It was my first 6 top, so 6 people, but it actually turned out to be 7 people, so we had to set up for an extra one. And immediately, you know, I was really new at the time, so I was pretty fragile with everything mentally, and everything's going really quickly. So even that extra person coming in, that kind of threw me off. So I was freaking out about messing up, and everything went really perfectly. Everything went really smoothly. Everybody loves me, and a lot of times when you get these big tables, they split it up into separate checks, and that's always a pain. But they covered it in one check. It was this one guy who's really great, gave me a big tip. That was really cool. It was really smooth.
I'm sure if I had to be a waiter for 6 months, it would definitely like change, like it'd probably help me respect them more, simply because of how stressful their job probably is, and the fact that, you know, they probably get underpaid and they might not get tipped all the time. So I'm sure it'd help me respect them and you know, be nicer to them and probably tip them a little bit more than I usually do.
Okay, skip next.
I feel like a lot of people that go to restaurants think they're just entitled to every little thing they ask for. And I think if people were servers for 6 months before they were allowed to go eat at restaurants, I mean, like, I just think they tip better and they'd appreciate their servers a little bit more instead of just walking all over them and just thinking they deserve to be treated like a god all the time. Yeah.
Well, for us, I think, you know, in some ways it might be a little bit easier. They'd sort of understand. They'd be pretty chill. But also it'd be it actually could also be worse because when people think that they know something, they actually become more assholes. Even when people would think that, you know, ignorance is the worst cause, but sometimes a little bit of knowledge in a situation is worse than none at all. They would see the kind of money that we make, the kind of cash that we pull in at the ages of, say, like freaking 19, and they'd probably even like dislike us because of that, because now they're becoming an office. As far as they go, they definitely would think that they understand the restaurant world a lot better. I think a lot of more understanding people would become even more understanding, but those who are obstinate would be the kind of people who kind of dislike us in general, simply because we make a lot of money for what we do. So yeah.
I guess it depends on how much you work. Like, I don't know, if you did it like every day, maybe, but it, like, honestly, being a waiter doesn't seem like, it seemed like kind of a scary way to make money because you don't know, like, I mean, being tipped, like, you're not positive you're getting money. Like, there's always the chance someone's not gonna tip or they're not gonna tip you well. So in that sense, like, I think I'd be kind of scared to be a waiter financially because I'm just not sure how much I'd make. So, I mean, they probably in reality don't make enough.
And they only left me $1, like, for tip.
Do you think the tips you get is enough to like survive if you had to pay rent or something like that?
No. I'm still in high school, but no.
Yeah, I think, I don't know, my thoughts on tips, whenever people say that 20% is like the baseline for tipping, like they don't understand that I'm only seeing about 17% of those tips. Like, I have bussers to tip out, I have hostesses to tip out, I have bartenders like to tip out, I have it's like people training up the food to tip out if it's a busy night. I think people don't realize that, like, they give me this money and I'm giving like 4 or 5 other people like the money that they're giving me. So I'm like, whenever I go out and eat, I mean, like, I tip well. I mean, I like always tip like 40 or 50%, and like you don't need to tip 40 or 50%, but I'm like tip like 30%, you know, like at the most, you know, it's not that big of a difference, and it covers me and like actually make 20% instead of like 17 or 18.
And it depends on the restaurant. The restaurant that I currently work at, 20% is what you're expected. If you're not making it as 20% or more, then you're doing something wrong. Some places it's less, some places it's more, and then of course 20% changes its actual value depending on how much the stuff costs. But typically on most nicer restaurants and then up, it stays at 20%, and then the more expensive the food is, the more that 20% means. Lower restaurants, typically people are looking for 12, 15% tips. I know somebody who works at some chain restaurant, and you know, $180 a night is really good for us. You know, $350 a night is really good for us. So it changes.
Yeah. I mean, definitely, people need to treat waiters with respect. Definitely, like, they're not their slave. They're, you know, they're hired. They're getting paid to work, so they need to be treated like a hired individual.
Yeah, I mean, besides being a server, like I would like to be a nurse. I'm going to nursing school. I already have my bachelor's from A&M, so I can do something with that. I'm just trying to rack up degrees right now while I'm still relatively young.
When I grow up, I want to be a waiter. No, that'd be terrible. I'm getting a hotel and restaurant management degree, but the whole idea is that basically I want to own a business that is intense and fast-paced and has a good turnover, have a good revenue.